The UFC has a bit of a situation on their hands surrounding its heavyweight division. Exhibit A, Jon Jones, arguably the greatest mixed martial arts fighter of all time. There are some asterisks next to this. Of course, he's had some PED usage that has caused some fights to get overturned. His outside of the cage antics had resulted in titles being stripped from him, things of that nature, and one disqualification loss that some think is a bit unnecessary, some think is very justified, is his only blemish on his career outside of the no contest. So for Jon Jones, being arguably the greatest mixed martial artist of all time and the heavyweight champion, you would think that it would be an easy fight to promote. Jon Jones, greatest fighter of all time, versus Stipe Miocic, greatest heavyweight of all time. However, Exhibit B, Dana White, promoter of the UFC, longtime promoter. In fact, he has been the promoter of the UFC for the bulk of my lifetime, brought the UFC from its dark fringe era sports all the way up to where it is now, where it is a mainstream sport known worldwide and is pretty much commonplace for people in the world to know what the UFC is. And it is not considered weird if you tell your friends that you're a UFC fan, where it used to be. Back in the 90s, early 2000s, it was kind of looked at as, less than a sport. Dana White is the majority of what is responsible for what brought the UFC to the limelight, what brought it to the mainstream, and here we are today. However, someone with this promotional ability, you would wonder, is Dana White actually hurting Jon Jones and the promotion of his fight against Stipe Miocic? Let's talk about it. Jon Jones, like I said, arguably the greatest fighter of all time. What we know about promotion, though, is that it doesn't really matter what you've done. If someone is forcing something down your throat, it's going to hurt your promotional ability. Jon Jones has the resume that speaks for itself. Jon Jones has a resume that would arguably be a main event worthy resume against anyone, let alone the greatest heavyweight of all time, arguably, in Stipe Miocic. I don't really know that that's arguable, but we're going to say arguably because everyone has an opinion. Dana White has pointed this out. The problem is that Dana White has pointed this out to the point that now you don't want to see that fight anymore. There's a fighter in Tom Aspinall who's coming up. Tom Aspinall is the interim champion, and because the UFC messed things up when Jon Jones was not able to fight, Aspinall then fought Sergey Pavlovich on short notice instead of Stipe Miocic when the fight originally fell out between Jon Jones and Miocic, making Tom Aspinall the interim champion. Now that the interim champion is not getting the title fight, but has also defended his interim championship, the UFC is looking like they're not promoting the rightful number one contender and instead bringing in somebody else to lose to the guy that they want to promote. Now, is this what's happening? I'm not sure. There are some finer details that we need to break down, but Dana White has stated many a time that if anyone walks into a room with Jon Jones, only Jon Jones is going to leave. And we know that because Dana White loves to promote Jon Jones. And because Dana White is so adamant about saying how Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time, he's the pound for pound best, this, that, and the other, and he's forcing it down our throats regardless of whether we agree or not, it's making less people excited to see Jon Jones and less people believe that Jon Jones is actually the best fighter on the planet currently. There are a lot of people out there who believe Tom Aspinall would beat Jon Jones, and the only reason that they're not making that fight is because they want Jones to go out on a win after he beats Stipe Miocic, who everyone has seemed to have written off as someone who's just going in there to get beat and let Jon Jones ride off into the sunset. Two-division champion, retire with only the slightest blemishes next to his career. Is that the truth, though? Is Stipe Miocic really just someone that's walking in there as cannon fodder? Is Stipe Miocic really washed up? We don't know. He hasn't fought in such a long time. Does Tom Aspinall have a rightful claim to be the person fighting Jon Jones for the actual unification of the heavyweight championships? Yeah, there's definitely that. But there's also the understanding that we're making a big fight here, and because of the way that the promotion has been handled, the fans don't want to see it. Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic could have been a huge fight because Dana White, who should know better than to do this, has been forcing the Jon Jones narrative down our throats, just forcing it down there. We're sick of it. We're tired of it. We don't want to hear any more about how much Dana White loves Jon Jones, which is absolutely absurd to me because we all wanted to see him return. We all wanted to see Jones return. When he fought Cyril Gane, everyone was excited to see Jon Jones return. He looked fantastic, obviously. He ran right through Cyril Gane. And I think that performance, although it was extremely impressive, actually kind of hurt Jon Jones as well. Because we didn't see him go through any adversity. And all that did was actually diminish Cyril Gane and not really elevate Jon Jones like we wanted him to. So for Dana White, what should he have done, or what could he have done differently to promote this fight? That's what we're gonna kind of go into here. Well, first off, you need, when you're promoting, and Dana White knows this, I don't know why he's not doing it, but he knows this. When you're promoting something, you need to make the fans want it, not tell the fans they're going to get it. There are promoters throughout the world that have done this very well. You need to make the fans want more, give them just enough to make them say, oh, come on, give us more information about this, or come on, we want this so bad, we need to see this, this is great. But instead, Dana White is promoting Jon Jones as if he's going to destroy Stipe Miocic. That is not how you promote a fight, because that doesn't make it competitive. Dana White constantly saying how Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time, he's the best fighter in the world, this, that, and the other. It's making the fans think that Stipe Miocic is a nobody that is just going in there to get beat, especially the fans that have come around to the sport in the time since Stipe's last fight. Now, although Stipe's last fight was a loss, maybe you came in and that was the first time and the only time you've seen Stipe Miocic compete, you would understand that if the promoter, the president of the UFC, is saying how great Jon Jones is and your only memory of Stipe Miocic is him getting beat, you could understand why you don't think this fight is any good, and why you would think that, you know, Jon Jones should just run right through Stipe Miocic. And I understand that, but as a promoter, Dana White knows this as well, and I don't understand why he isn't instead hyping up the compelling nature of the matchup, making fans understand that, oh, hey, Stipe Miocic is great. He spent this time away, improving, getting better. Whether that's true or not, as a promoter, you want fans to believe that. Dana White's not doing that. The only side of this thing that he is promoting is Jon Jones. And that is where the UFC has gone wrong in this, because now we've got a guy in Tom Aspinall who the fans that have come along since Stipe's last fight have seen him do nothing but destroy his opposition, except for the time he blew out his knee. Whatever, you give him a pass there. Even the casual fans understand that sometimes freak injuries happen. So outside of that, Tom Aspinall's looked nothing but incredible. He's knocking everybody out in the first round, outside of Arlovsky, which is an anomaly. But either way, he's knocking pretty much everybody out in the first round. He's doing it impressively. I believe he has the lowest average fight time in the UFC, and that's incredible considering he's the interim champion. So his resume speaks for himself. We've already seen him do all this stuff. So Dana White's battling an uphill battle, but instead of promoting Stipe Miocic to elevate the fight with Jon Jones, he is instead only promoting Jon Jones, and then in trying to force us to not think as highly of Tom Aspinall by saying that he, agreeing with Jones. Oh, he hasn't done enough. The bigger fight is Stipe Miocic. When all we've seen from Stipe is his last fight was a loss, and he hasn't fought since, and it's been like 4 years. The UFC has handled this situation poorly. That is all I'm saying. I'm saying that Dana White has made an error in the promotion, which is something that you would not see from a guy like Dana White. Typically, he is supposed to be the greatest promoter in all of combat sports, and I would argue that he is. But maybe he just messed some stuff up too early on, and he doubled down on his mistakes, and that is where we are today. But fans, let me ask you, what is your opinion on this one? Do you think Stipe Miocic is just going in there to get beat? Do you think Jon Jones is the greatest fighter of all time? Do you think Tom Aspinall really should be getting the shot? And if you do you think Tom Aspinall would beat Jon Jones? Do you think Tom Aspinall is the rightful heavyweight champion because he's defended his interim title? And since Jon Jones hasn't actually beaten the lineal champion, his belt is about the same as Tom Aspinall's as far as legitimacy, but Tom Aspinall has defended his. What do you guys think in the comments below? And if you've enjoyed this little, different style of content that I put out, this little opinion piece, please like this video and let me know that. Drop some comments down below and maybe share this with some friends. I would appreciate it greatly. Thanks you guys for tuning in, and I will see you in the fight breakdowns coming up very soon.